A very good afternoon to everyone. Today, I'm really excited to introduce to you our not just one guest, but guests for the afternoon today. We have three sisters, not just one, from the school called Tapas Education. So let me begin by introducing the Managing Director, Ms. Preethi Vickram. Inspire, nurture, transform. These are the three attributes that define her professional journey. A committed educator, passionate parenting coach, serial entrepreneur, leadership mentor, and a brand champion with a sincere heart and desire to make that difference in the lives of children and consequently the world at large. She is a committed educator. She's presented her paper at the NAEYC Conference 2014 in Dallas, Texas, about humor in early childhood, and in 2016 at Los Angeles about leadership development in children using superhero play. She's a certified trainer for DAP, which is Developmentally Appropriate Practices, and helps schools understand and implement the same through teacher training and curriculum enrichment. She is a passionate parenting coach and she offers sessions to help parents with targeted practices in the art of raising children. She is a leadership mentor and she's a founder of Life, which is a dynamic initiative that focuses on educational leadership and organizational cultures. She is a member of the Board of Studies of Srimati VHT Institute of Home Science for the Master's Program in Early Years Education. She's a brand champion. She's been the head of Karnataka Chapter, Early Childhood Association, and she's been instrumental in managing and upholding the evidence of quality of Podar Jumbo Kids, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, with over 50 franchised centers under her. Having started and training at Podar Institute of Education in Bangalore and scaffolding the learning of future teachers, it's been an immensely gratifying experience for her. A very warm welcome to you, Ms. Preethi. Moving on to the next Executive Director, Ms. Shruthi Rathan. She is a visionary who was amongst the first edupreneurs in the country. She has a decade and a half of experience in this space. Identifying the need for quality education in the preschool space, she started her first preschool in Bangalore about 16 years ago. Donning multiple hats, Shruthi runs two preschools and has also co-founded Peppermint Events and Shop Till Drop, conducting lifestyle exhibitions and events for families and kids. Her 16 years of experience as an early childhood educator has helped her gain pertinent insights into the psyche of young parents, which she uses well in guiding parents in dealing with the various challenges associated. She has a creative bent of mind and her out-of-the-box thinking serves as a cornerstone to her work. Her excellent networking skills are just a natural extension of a pleasant demeanor. A very warm welcome to you, Ms. Shruthi. Now moving on to our final sister, I would say the third sister, who is another executive director, Ms. Nishanthi Abhijit. Nishanthi Abhijit is a keen learner. She has achieved the bronze standard in the International Award for Young People awarded by the Duke of Edinburgh in her early years. She was encouraged to explore and excel during her adolescence while working with underprivileged children and also participating in various extracurricular activities, gathering experience. Having excelled in her years of education with distinction, she started her career as a management trainee where she learned the nitty-gritty of functioning any organization, leading her to further join as a trainer at VETA, experts in English training where she learned the ways of people management and worked as a corporate trainer for Toyota Kirloskar Motors. At this job, she gained the experience of dealing with all sections of people, building the foundation of knowledge to work with people, finances and management. She started her own firm in the year 2010 in a niche market of providing summer camps, after-school programs and events Science for Preschools. This, in the last 10 years, consisted of programs that were successfully run in over 200 schools across Bangalore and was in line to begin franchising this year. The experience of running her own firm independently for the last 10 years has shown how organized, focused, and creative she can be while raising an active 6-year-old daughter who keeps her grounded. This last year has been a reminder that every moment matters, and if every moment matters, then we must seize every moment. So in the grand vision of life, the time has come to finally pour life in the passion project as the co-op founder for Tapas Progressive Educational Institution. A very warm welcome. It's indeed an honor to have all three of you with us today. So once again, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much.
To begin with, I would just like to understand from any of you, what was the thought behind starting this school and why was it named so?
Okay, I'll answer that one. It has been on our minds from a long time that we should start something which is more child-led. Just like any great entrepreneurial venture, any great idea that comes about, it came from our personal experiences. I think we were so frustrated with the way the education system was. One, as having interacted with certain educators being in the industry. Secondly, as parents ourselves. I think the frustration of we know how education should be, but we don't have those kind of schools which can help us with our own children's education. That frustration was somewhere there. So we have been researching about how education can be more child-led in our past roles and past experiences also. But then COVID kind of helped us to take the leap. We said, okay, if not now, then when? So two things happened. One was the National Education Policy 2020. When the draft came out, I think we were very happy to see the draft say, because it spoke exactly what our vision was for a school should be, right? I mean, the NEP talks about how it has to be transdisciplinary learning, play being the form of pedagogy in early childhood. I mean, everything about the NEP resonated so well with us. We said, now, because there is so much awareness about change in education industry, this is the right time for us to start our dream project. The second thing that happened, I think, is during COVID, parents, when they were sitting with their children, and most parents had to attend the online classes of the child to mute, unmute, and raise hand and things like that. Parents, I think, realized somewhere that, oh my God, what I have learned as a child hasn't really changed that much. So I think the awareness about better form of education kind of happened to be more widespread now. So I think these two factors were the impetus for us to start what was on the back burner for a long time. So all those years of research about how child-led learning can really make a difference in the way children are invested in learning itself, that research kind of took shape during 2020. That's what happened. The name Tapas, we had shortlisted a couple of names. Our considerations were very simple, that it has to be easy to pronounce, number one, because it cannot be something which is a tongue twister for the child itself. So it has to be easy to pronounce. It should reflect the kind of values we stand for. And also it should be something that's Indic, because Tapas as a school believes that there is a lot of Indian wisdom, the Indian knowledge systems that can provide the wisdom to the learning itself. The name had to reflect that. So when we had shortlisted a few names, we did a survey among parents, friends, and family. We asked them to choose which one would suit our ideology the most. I mean, what can be more democratic than choice of a name coming from parents themselves, right? So we said, let's do this. It was so nice to see that most parents resonated with the name Tapas for the kind of philosophy that we have come out with. So I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely, it does. Thank you. I understood the reason behind the name and everything. It's very interesting how you took the vote from the parents and got things together. But one thing which really fascinates me is that at what point of time did you decide that you wanted to do this together?
As sisters, we are quite close-knit. I was sharing earlier with you, we come from a family where education is given good importance. So it was quite but natural that started thinking alike. And again, it was quite but natural that we all do it together. That's how all the three of us ended up doing this. And, our families have been very supportive as well. It just became very organic and very natural for us to do this together.
That's awesome. And it's so nice to see that, when people or members of the same family have the same vision and come together to do this. That's so amazing. Yeah, so I would like to understand from you, which I'm sure the parents would like to know as well as, so which grades do you currently have? I start with which grades and what is the plan of moving ahead? Till what grades are you planning to have?
For the coming academic year 2023, we would be having right from early years, which would start with your pre-nursery. We would have nursery. Then we have kindergarten, which is LKG and UKG, followed by the elementary program from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Those are the grades that we would be looking at for admission.
So just to continue what Nishanthi was saying, when we started with the elementary program because we wanted to understand and have a proof of concept in terms of project-based learning being something that can be done not just in the early years but can be done even as an elementary program. And it has been very well received. We are able to look at how children have responded to projects and project-based learning. Now that we have a proof of concept, we have extended it both higher and lower grades as well. So that's what we have done. Following year will be proof of concept for the early years as well.
Of course, having been in Bangalore for so many years, there are certain places, or I would say every nook and corner has either a preschool or probably mainstream school at very close quarters. So with so many schools mushrooming, how do you think you guys are going to make a difference? Of course, I've understood your philosophy behind the school, but how do you think that what is going to set you guys apart? And what are the plans going ahead in showing or showcasing to the parents that these are the USPs of your school?
I think the first thing being, we are the first school in Bangalore who follow 100% project-based learning. So there is a lot of emphasis given to it being child-led as well as experiential learning for children, where the focus is not solely on academics, but as well as life skills that they need to pick up on. Or we don't have anything called as extracurricular because they are all part of our program. These are some things that I think play a very important role in us differentiating ourselves from another school.
Absolutely. I think that's a very valid point because like you said, since your way of teaching is project-based, then there is nothing separately that is required to be done because children are experiencing the whole thing on a day-to-day basis. Am I right?
I don't know about all the other schools, but at Tapas, I think what we start with is respect for the child. When we think of the child not as somebody who's going to grow up to be a contributing member, but today being somebody and us being respectful of the child's needs, respectful of the child's entire development, that is the difference. Because when we look at everything, it's from the point of view of the child. Like we had a discussion whether we should have, for instance, uniforms for the children. This raging debate that we had as to why uniforms and should we have uniforms at Tapas because we are such an open-ended school. So the conversation was that why should we have uniforms? So the couple of children felt that, it's so restricting and, I don't want to wear the same thing every day. I want to express myself and all that happened. There was another line of thought that uniforms are required because then everybody are equal. There is talks about equality because everybody is the same. So there is no bias that happens if there is uniform. So now there is a debate. What do we do? So children really thought through and they said they came up with a solution that maybe every day we don't have uniforms because we are okay. We know how we each other are. We will not be biased towards each other. But when there is somebody who's an outsider coming to Tapas, like events, like a sports day or performances, anything like that, on those days we will have a uniform. To that extent, the child's voice is respected. And that, I think, kind of sets us apart from any school that you see.
That's amazing. And I think when you leave the decision making to children, then they are more accountable and they can't complain about why is it so, because they are the ones who've taken the decisions.
The need for these decisions, we are making that easier for the parents. In fact, when parents need to give instructions over something, we are always telling you need to eat that, you need to do this and things like that, right? As parents, children themselves start understanding the consequences of their actions.
Very true. Very true. That's amazing. So what I used to always come across parents when they come for admissions, one of the questions which was predominantly on their minds, maybe you can call it a herd mentality or whatever, but they would always say that what board is the school following, whether it's an ICSE or a CBSE or IGCSE. In fact, even if they were coming to admit their child even in a kindergarten, they would still be wanting to know what board is the school following. But I would like to understand what are your points of view on this. What do you think of the boards, and does it really make a difference to the child's success in what board the child comes from? So, you can just share your thoughts on that, please.
I think finally what a board is that they are defining what the child learning outcomes should be at the end of a particular period of time, whether it's at the end of the primary grades, middle, high school, etc. So I think the board's duty is to define what the learning outcomes look like. I don't think any board has ever pressurized us to follow a form of pedagogy, and that is the misconception. Like you might have also realized that the misconception is that a national board will be very strict or an international board will have XYZ kind of a atmosphere. I think that is something of a myth and we should break that. Having said that, at Tapas, we were very happy to align with the IGCSE board, the Cambridge board. The reason being these same learning outcomes are defined in every 2 years once. The time for a child to meet those learning outcomes is a little longer. So it allows the child a lot more time and space, and which thereby allows us to have a little bit more of an open-ended pedagogy, the project-based learning that we talk about, to ensure that the child meets those learning outcomes. The pressure is that much lesser. And it also lends itself very beautifully to a multi-age group classroom. So which is why at Tapas we have aligned to IGCSE only because of the fact that the learning outcomes are defined every 2 years once. I'm able to answer both. That's not that any board is better or worse. It just matters about what your pedagogy is and which board is in alignment with that.
Yes, absolutely. What we need to tell the parents is that their question is that, when the child passes out, say from a CBSE or ICSE or IGCSE, do you think it's going to define child's success in life?
I wish we knew what defines a child's success. I don't think anything has been ever documented about how a child can be successful or there is a formula for it. I think, like you said right at the beginning when you were asking the question, it is probably herd mentality because there is lack of awareness of what else is out there. Just that once we have a little bit more understanding, where parents know that there are other options, they will choose better. Every parent is looking to do the best for their child. I don't think any parent is thinking, okay, I'm going to torture my child for the next 12 years by admitting into this school, right? So I think every parent operates from the point that I want to do the best for my child, so I don't want them to face any troubles, and so hence that. But if there is more awareness that there is the choice of boards are there and that it can be based on the child's interest. So today, even if you take up NIOS, if the child is into sports or if the child has other special needs or anything like that. So NIOS has been a favorite board with parents whose children have needs which are not very traditional or conventional. When it comes to the national board, it's just more aligned to the kind of competitive exams, whether it is your NEET or JEE or anything like that. So I think, again, because there is lack of awareness about anything else, the parents prefer those boards. When you look at how the IGCSE boards exams are, the board exams are, you will understand that after passing out, whether it is the national boards or international boards, the same amount of rigor is required to prepare for any competitive exam. So the child has to put in the hours irrespective of which board they come from. So I don't think the board makes a difference. I think the school makes a difference because it's the school's ideas that is being used by whatever board they choose that makes all the difference.
Absolutely. Sometimes the parents have this question. They say that it's like a comparison, though we tell them don't compare and stuff like that. But they always feel that, okay, my child is already 5. My neighbor's child is probably younger by a few months. The other one has picked up things so fast and already knows whatever, you can say 3-letter words, 5-letter words. They can say sentences and all that blah, blah things. But my child is not able to. So from a parent's perspective, is there any specific way in which the child learns? That's what the parents always want to know, that how can my child learn in the best possible manner? Is there any particular way which the parents would like to know?
So I think there are specific ways in which children learn, and that is multisensorial ways, transdisciplinary ways, things that nobody has taught us as parents. Unfortunately, we are sent out to be a parent without any license, right? I mean, we just become parents. So unfortunately, these are terms that no parent is aware of. But I think what parents need to keep in mind is that all children develop at their own pace. The development happens in the same terms of the pattern. Like the child is going to sit, the child is going to stand, then walk, then run. So that is not going to change. Similarly, even while learning, it is always going to be that the child is able to listen, especially when it comes to literacy. It's listen, read, write, and then comprehend. So it's always going to be in that manner. So listen, speak, and read, write, and then be able to spell. So this is the way that it is going to develop. If parents know that this happens, there will be differences in the children's age in terms of when they are picking it up. But the format is the same. The pattern is going to be the same. So I think comparison is moot, right? I mean, we cannot compare it. Today, me and somebody else join this organization at the same time. Both of us are never going to learn at the same pace or learn together in the same manner. So how can we expect children that it's not like factory where everybody's coming out at the same time and it's all looking the same, right? I mean, that's not what we're doing. So I think what we need to be aware of is, say, for instance, Montessori spoke about the periods of sensitivity, right? The sensitive periods where, for instance, in the first 4 years of a child's life, they are more sensitive to language. The more we speak to children, the more they pick up. During the 4th to the 6th year, children are more sensitive towards writing. It is like if the caterpillar is in the cocoon, and wherever there is light, that's where the cocoon is going to break and the caterpillar will come out. How does the caterpillar know that? That's the sensitivity of the caterpillar. Similarly, each child has a sensitivity during which we are going to ensure that if given the right impetus, they are going to learn. So parents need not worry about comparison, but just be aware that if I do this, this is going to be the consequence. So just be aware of giving the best stimulus, just be aware of giving the best environment for learning, and I think learning will happen automatically.
Absolutely. That's so true.
So to add to that, multi-age group classrooms in our school, children are able to work at their own pace, and there's no constant comparison saying he's 6 years old, I'm 6 years old, he's able to write, I'm not able to write. They all are aware that each of us are different and we learn at different levels, and they work in such a beautiful manner wherein they're able to learn from each other, help each other, push each other to do better, and that helps.
You're very right. With the children, they may not have that kind of comparison or things like that. In fact, they nudge each other on and they egg each other on. It's not amongst the children at all. It usually happens amongst the parents. So they are the ones who tend to compare. So that's what I was trying to understand. So usually parents, of course, each parent today has a whole lot of expectations, not just from the schools, but even from their own children. What do you think is required to shape a child's personality overall? You know, parents are always wanting, if the child is an introvert, that the child should develop social skills. If the child is this, child should have that also, this also, that also. So there's a long list of what the child should have. So are there any prerequisites or, requirements which the parents can also help the child imbibe to help the child develop an overall kind of personality? Are there some things that you could share?
So, if I may, first thing is that parents, like I said, at Tapas, we respect the child. I think parents should also respect the child. Respect is not just in terms of asking them and giving them choices. It's also respecting that, for instance, if I'm building a tower of blocks, right? The child is building a tower of blocks and it keeps falling. Immediately, as a parent, you want to give the solution. So don't do that. Respect the child, respect the process, allow them to figure it out on their own. They have to learn that a larger base. And so that will happen only through trial and error. Sometimes as parents, we don't have the patience for trial and error. We want to get there faster, right? So I think first is have the respect, have the patience, allow trial and error. I think the second most important thing I would think is something that parents today have forgotten is how to develop resilience, because we are so busy in trying to provide what we didn't have as parents, as children to our own children, what our parents couldn't give us. We are so busy trying to fulfill every need of the child that we are making life so easy for them. So this child who's had a very nice, happy, trouble-free childhood suddenly has to come out into the real world and be like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. And which is why you're seeing more and more number of adolescents who are not able to cope with any kind of stress, who are not able to cope with a breakup, or they're not able to cope with their first job. I think resilience is the second thing. And third thing is, according to me, and I think in your introduction you mentioned that I wrote about humor. That is most important. When you're a parent, you should be able to laugh. A glass of milk is spilled, you should laugh and say, okay, it's spilled, now what? Otherwise, I think the first reaction we would have is anger, right? So if we switch from anger to humor, I think a lot of our troubles will be solved, especially with children, because they come from a state of responding through their amygdala, right? I mean, they are in a freeze fear, and they're in that response where the reflex has kicked in. So if they've made a mistake, treat it humorously, smile about it, laugh about it, talk about it. Then after that, sit down and talk to the child about how they can correct themselves. So humor with the child is fantastic. And also development of humor is very congruent with the development of cognition, right? So when children's humor is developing, it also means that their cognition is developing. So if parents see this correlation, they're also able to laugh a little better with children. So I think that is important. So these three things from me. I will let the others.
I think, Shanti, if you had something to say.
Yes, I think to add to that, I would say a lot of love and time. I think we're all so held up in our lives today. We need to make a little bit more time away from gadgets and spend time together. So I would like to add love and time to that list.
Absolutely.
And it has to be guilt-free. Parents need not feel the pressure. Nowadays, you see parents all over doing everything possible for the child. So if you feel your child is not interested in something, or you don't have the means or the capacity to do anything, there are so many other things that the children is interested in doing, and there are so many opportunities. So stay away from guilt and stay away from pressure. Children will learn better, definitely.
Since we're talking about parents at Tapas, how much of parent participation that you all look at for the children who are studying there, and not just on a day-to-day basis, but where events or different activities are concerned? So what are your expectations in terms of parents' time concerned with the school?
So at Tapas, we believe this is more of a community. So we are a family together. So we would love any time that they can give us, whether we have grandparents who come and do storytelling sessions with our children. We have parents volunteering as part of the clubs that the children are part of. We have some events which are completely parent-led. But at the same time, we are mindful that not everybody and all the time can give us the time. Wherever they are able to be part of the school and its activities, we would love it. They can come and do master classes with us. They can come and do sessions with us. But apart from that, on an everyday basis, there is no requirement for the parent to be involved.
Yeah, sure, Preethi, please go ahead.
Further clarify what Nishanthi said. I think the minute we say project-based learning, a parent is thinking, my God, this child is going to bring projects home. I have to now paste and I have to, do all these things, because project is usually done by the parent, right? So just to clarify that, at Tapas, children do the projects in school. The project-based learning happens in school. The maximum a parent might have to do is become like a driver. If a child has to interview somebody or get some materials, they have to be the driver for the parent. So that's the kind of involvement that we are talking about. It's facilitating how the child is learning and doing those projects. And like Nishanthi said, we have a way that parents have become a part of the community, because they've realized that they are our partners in raising the child in a particular manner. So if it was just academic, we wouldn't need to do this kind of a partnership. But because this is so much more than just, this is a whole life that we are bringing up, right? The partnership is very important, and we are a community. And here we want to clarify that it's not just the parent who is a partner, it's the whole family becomes a partner with Tapas.
That's such a wonderful idea, And also when children know that my mom and my teacher are on the same page, then they can't really, be up to any kind of mischief, because they know that both of them are going to talk to each other. Yes, absolutely. So moving on to another question, which concerns with, I would not term these children special, but would call them differently abled. So many a times, it's sad that, parents of such children sometimes sometimes are running from pillar to post looking for help for their child. So at the time of admission, at times you may not know if the child has a learning disability or is a little slow learner. In case that is something that you discover after say 2-3 months, is there some kind of a facility at Tapas which can kind of provide support for such children, or what is the process that you follow?
So we have a tie-up with an organization called as We Nurture. So the special educators from We are usually frequent Tapas whenever we feel that, based on our observations, a child has some special needs. Child is having some developmental delays. So we flag off the child and the special educator comes to Tapas and observes, ensures that they're doing in a playful manner, that they engage the child and they observe what's happening. Based on their observations, they give their recommendations. Now, what we have to understand is that if a very open-ended structure will work for the child, because at Tapas, it's very child-led. So some children who have special needs might require a lot more rigor and a lot more structured activities. So it all depends on the observation of the special educator, who can come in and tell us that this will work, this will not work. Sometimes they give us, even in the past, we've had instances where they've given us recommendations of what we could change. For instance, including a visual timetable for the child to understand that this activity, then this activity. So, just give visual reminders for the child, or giving consequences, which is, which the child understands. So whatever are the recommendations, we do definitely take it. And since we do have the tie-up, they are able to support us with IEPs, the Individualized Education Plan. So we try to work in the best interest of the child. But if at any point of time they tell us that it will be detrimental for the child to continue at Tapas because they might be regressing due to the kind of openness that we have, then we recommend the parents to look for next steps that they need to go, whether it's occupational therapy, speech therapy, whichever they require. We recommend them to go ahead with that.
So do you have, for such children, there are times that it's hard for some parents to accept this about their child. So is there some kind of parent counseling that happens for such parents?
Yes, we do have an in-house counselor who sits with the parents. In case of not just denial, it's also about how do I cope now that I know that there's something wrong. I mean, it's such a huge kind of a life-changing information that they've got. So they need to know how to cope. So we do have our own counselors. We work with other counselors outside also. In case they won't, we refer them to others also. So, I mean, it's only that every child's need is so different. So we need to, again, build a whole community that can support this child. So that's what we try to do.
So now you guys talked about experiential learning and everything is project-based. But apart from this, are there any major events or activities that take place during the course of the year, and are parents part of it? So what activities or annual events do you all have at Tapas?
There are a lot of things that we do. I think that becomes a problem for us sometimes because we run out of time. Two big events. One is the Summit of the Minds, which happens mid-year. And then we have our Kite Festival, which happens in January. And then we have our Varshikotsav, which happens at the end of the year. Sorry, these are three events. I said two. So Summit of the Minds and Varshikotsav are completely child-led events, wherein they showcase their learnings. They plan the entire event. And of course, parents, family are invited to come and view these presentations. The Kite Festival is normally clubbed along with the Sports Day. So that is a parent-led event, and that happens during Sankranti in January. And apart from this, we have a lot of smaller events that we have, wherein, say, completion of each project, there is some kind of a small event that is planned, celebrations that are planned. We have during festivals and special days of the year that there are activities and events planned.
I wish as a kid I studied in Tapas. Sounds so exciting.
So here for Halloween, children wanted to have an evening party.
Okay.
So we, in fact, did not have school in the first half of the day. We had school in the second half of the day.
Okay.
And we're not ready to go back home.
I'm sure.
We have been told that we need to plan for a stayover.
Oh.
Minds that Nishanthi spoke about earlier. Summit of the Minds, like she said, is a child-led event. We have seen some fantastic leadership examples come out during the Summit of the Minds. We've done it for 2 years now, and both years children have bowled us over with the way they have taken charge. So it would be like, so ma'am, we are having the SOTM, the They call it the SOTM, Summit of the Mind. So we are having the SOTM. Can you please go up? Meeting is going on. So can you please
Oh.
step up? So we were really thrown out of the classrooms because they were having the event. It was like we were visitors, So we as adults were to see that they had taken care of so many aspects of an event, right? So they had planned and they had executed the event to perfection. The Varshikotsav that happens at the end of the year is more, we like to focus on art. The emphasis is on art during the Varshikotsav. So whatever art that they have created throughout the year, that is something that they sell during the Varshikotsav. So there's a little bit of entrepreneurship that they learn. They learn about how to market their art better. And, there is the sense of a lot of colorful celebration happening at the school at the end of the year. So that is Varshikotsav. So this, we could go on for hours. So please stop.
Two more things that we do, if you can call them events. So we have master classes for every project that we do. We have a master class wherein we get a professional to come and talk to the children. We have a project called the Tiny House Project. There was a pretend client who came in and gave in her requirements, and then an architect came in and made the children connect to the requirement and how the house could be. So that is a master class. We have field trips, again based on each of the projects, and we have farm visits. So we want the children to understand that the food does not come through Swiggy and Zomato, but so we want them to get to their roots. So we take them on farm visits every few months once. So we get them to understand the process as well, among the many other events that we all have been talking.
Wow, that sounds so interesting. I love the farm visits. So do you also have something in your school where there is a little space and for them to kind of grow something or something like that?
We have in-ground garden. So we have both.
So I think to kind of bring it all together, each of our activity, event, anything that we do, there's a lot of thought that goes in behind it. It's not just about looking at the academic learning for the child, which is going to be met during that, but what is the additional skills that the child learns through that is something that we are always conscious about. And how is it really helping the child? If I just have to make the child go to a field trip, that I can take them anywhere, but how is it really benefiting the child is something that we are consciously questioning about everything that we do.
Absolutely. That's very important, because sometimes schools just think that because certain number of activities have to be done, so something random is planned and then that's all they do away with. So it's good that each of the activities at Tapas is so meaningful and there's a thought behind it. So coming to one of my few last questions, but talking about, of course, safety now, which is again become a big concern in the minds of parents, whether my child is safe, what are the safety precautions that schools are taking, which is understandable. So I would just like to understand, even like right from the early childhood years, how are you kind of taking care that children are in a safe environment when they step into your school?
I think, like you rightly pointed out, safety is such a big, important thing that we as not only educators, but as parents first, that we would consider. All of our, rooms, the entire premises, of course, have CCTV camera that we are able to monitor. And all of our staff, we do a background check before they join us. And whether it is transport or anything else, we make sure that we are able to track them through GPS.
I think the other things are basically, when we look at safety itself, we look at the physical safety, which is what Nishanthi has just described, but also looking at their emotional and mental safety as well. So we do sessions on knowing the difference between good and bad touch. So we have had multiple sessions. We're also doing sessions on bullying and how we stop ourselves from being bullied and also ourselves becoming a bully. So we've done sessions on bullying. We've also, I think, even from the very first point of contact that the child has with the school, which is at the drop off and pick up, there are, we do use technology for them to sign in and sign out. So unless the parent has access to that or the person picking up and dropping has access to that code, they are not able to pick up and drop. So, to that extent, we are making sure that at every point there is safety that we are keeping in mind. All the furniture that we have at Tapas have rounded edges. Even if it's not about child-proofing the entire space, it's about teaching the children to take care of their own bodies. So we make them aware about their bodies, about movement and how they should be able to take care of their own bodies, because an adult can't be behind a child all the time. So I think we tackle it from, yes, the physical
I think a little bit of a delay that she's.
Yeah, Preethi,
You were stuck.
can you just tell us again? We just kind of lost you there.
The
Okay.
last bit.
The last bit, yeah.
From the physical safety.
I think at Tapas, we are focused not just on the physical safety that is immediately visible to the eye, like the CCTV cameras and the background checks and things like that. It's also about equipping the child with knowing their own self, knowing their bodies, being able to take care of themselves. So the safety is not just something that is external, but it's something that is so intrinsically built within the child that I need to also be conscious and take care of myself. So we do work on both fronts. It's about the physical as well as my own emotional and mental safety and well-being.
So they say that, the workforce, which are the teachers who are like the pillars of any school. I would just like to understand, if teacher wants to join in, what is the process or the recruitment process that you follow, and what kind of trainings are given to teachers before they can join workforce at Tapas?
So I don't know if this will be good or bad for us, because I do want teachers applying, but we have a rigorous selection procedure. So there are multiple rounds of interviews that the teachers have to go through, because we are assessing their their attitudes and aptitudes, both for being in the classroom, which is as open-ended. The primary requirement, of course, is that they've completed their graduation. B.Ed is not such a major deal breaker for us, because we believe that we provide enough training for that. Once they've completed these rounds of interview, they have to come to the school and do a demonstration, obviously, because we need to see them in action, because a lot of people look great on paper, do very well reviews, but then we need to see them in action. So we ask them to prepare, and also the kind of learning that happens at Tapas, we want to see if they're able to gauge that and prepare their lessons according to it. So they do a demo, and after they've done the demo, they have to fill up something called as a thought alignment form, which is a case study analysis. They go through a case study, and then we see how their responses are to that. Based on all these parameters, finally we have the final round of interview, and they become a part of Tapas. When it seems like the universe has to come together to get the teacher to the rigor with which we select our teachers, and once they are part of Tapas, I think we are by this time, I think people who do not see the vision are naturally sifted out. I mean, they're not part of Tapas itself. Yeah. So the people who have joined us have really strong sense of purpose and that respect that we keep talking about for the child. Trainings happen constantly. So every Friday we have we call it the Friday. We all get together and we learn together. So from every Friday, we spend about 4 hours going through literature review. So we look at different articles from different parts of the world. We understand how that can be applied to Tapas, or how that can change the way we are thinking. What have been some of the gaps we have seen in the past week in terms of how lessons have been planned? How can we bridge those gaps? So every Friday there is this. Plus we have external faculty who come in to train our teachers. So we've had trainers come in and talk about how, for instance, how to deal with special needs in the classroom. How can we make the classroom look different? If we have children who do not necessarily have special needs, but they need some kind of extra support, extra hand holding. So how can we do remedials with that child without making them feel that they're apart? How can we do better questioning with the children? We've done workshops on how to do literary circles, for instance.
We lost the last bit, Preethi. So you were talking about the circle time and something towards the end, which we missed out, the last bit.
So I was saying that we do have external faculty coming in to help us learn better and become better at what we are doing. We also have our faculty visit other schools where there is great learning happening, so they're able to see it in action. Otherwise, they're not able to practice it. So we do have visits happening to other schools also. So this is a lot of rigorous training that happens throughout the year, but it's a lot of fun. I have to say that, because I think we're all just having so much fun while learning that I think teachers will find that the work culture is something that they will appreciate. We are very proud that it's always the teacher or the facilitator who has to be thoroughly convinced about that lesson plan. So we all report to that facilitator, right? I mean, it's our responsibility to ensure that we facilitate the facilitator to do a great job.
True, absolutely. No, and it's so nice to see because, people, the ones especially who are qualified, who have years of experience, become so closed about sharing the best practices with the others. And it's so nice that the teachers are visiting the other schools as well to learn, which is an amazing thing. And I think education sector has to do this a lot more. And it's an amazing practice that you guys have. Really, hats off. So yes, coming to the last question of the day, I know you all have just kind of onboarded on our platform, which is the Skoolz, but I would just like to know your thoughts a little bit on how you have felt about Skoolz. What are your thoughts, or what is your feedback about our platform?
To begin with, I think I'll just share my very quick observations. You guys are extremely professional in your approach to everything. That is something that has made you stand apart from all the other similar service providers. But then I feel like Skoolz is not just a service provider. You're really trying to get into the DNA of the school and support the school with their requirements. So I think it becomes almost an extension of the school itself. So I think kudos to you for having created that kind of an organization. So I'd like
the way you are, going out of your way and trying to make sure that, even when we are talking about Tapas, so the way you're trying to project and promote Tapas, your confidence in us is making good about ourselves too.
Thank you.
It's fantastic how right from the founder to the person who's talking to a parent, which might be your customer service team, everybody is so approachable, so professional, and the fact that you care matters. So it's not just like Preethi said, it's not just a service that is being provided, but you're looking at being just to not only your customers, but also to the schools that you're partnered with. And that reflects in every action that is being taken.
Thank you so much. And I wish this conversation would go on because it was so much fun and so interesting to hear your thoughts. And I'm sure we would love to have you guys back very soon for another interesting, invigorating session and know much more about your school. I'm sure that we could cover probably 1/4 of it, or it was just the top of the cake, the icing is what we have covered. Would love to have more sessions and hear you all. And I was so excited to know that all three of you are sisters and you're doing this together. That excited me the most. So I'm really looking forward to having you guys with us again. So thank you so much for taking out the time. It was lovely, lovely speaking to all of you. And I pray that Tapas really goes higher and higher and you're able to achieve your vision and you reach the pinnacles of your success. Thank you so much.
And you've been a fantastic host. So
yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.